my name's Saskia Esslinger, and I'm co-owner of Red Edge Design with my husband, just the two of us. So he does home energy audits, and I do gardening workshops, consultations, and designs. So together we're trying to help people live more sustainably in Anchorage, and our tagline is Urban Homesteads for Modern Living. And we've tried to epitomize that with our own house, which is, we call the William Street Farmhouse. And you can come on a tour of what we do there and see how we've turned it from kind of a standard Anchorage duplex into something that's a little more special and super energy efficient. And we grow pretty much all of our own vegetables and produce for the year on our little Anchorage city lot. So it's pretty cool. There are flyers for workshops and tours and whatnot in the back, if you're interested in any of that. I grew up here in Anchorage, and my parents always had a big garden, and I feel really lucky that I got to grow up on such wonderful, good food. When I went away to college, I realized how special and lucky I was, and that's when I really started getting interested in food and how we grow it, and how it gets from how it grows and how it gets to our plates. And you know, I figured that the shortest way for it to get from the ground to our plates is to grow it outside your front door. So that's what I try to do. And that's why I'm trying to help other people do that as well. If you have a healthy soil, it means that you're going to grow healthy plants. You can't grow healthy plants in soil that's degraded or it doesn't have all the nutrients in it. So it's really, I mean, those of you who are beginners, this is really a good place to start because it is the basics for gardening. You have to pay attention to your soil. You know, when we're little kids and we draw a picture of a plant, you always draw it from like above ground, you know, the tree comes straight out of the ground. But what we don't imagine or picture a lot of times is all the roots that go down into the ground and how important they are to the plant. Plant wouldn't exist without the soil and the roots that are anchored in there. So it's always good to remember when you're gardening that you are gardening the soil, not just the plants. If you have healthy soil, a lot of times it means you have less disease problems. If your plants are healthy, they're more able to withstand pests such as aphids or slugs or other things like that we have. And then if you have a really healthy soil and a good rotation and a way of doing it, then you actually spend less time fertilizing and worrying about your soil. And so you can keep it in balance and let it kind of balance itself out. Then you don't have to worry about it so much. So also soil is a scarce resource. If you think about our world, 75% of our world is water, between oceans and lakes and rivers. 15% are deserts and mountains, so that leaves only 10% of our world which is suitable for growing things. And where are all our cities? Right in our most fertile areas. So that's kind of a blessing because, you know, if you think about Anchorage, almost all of us have a yard of some sort to be able to grow something in, and it's suitable soil. So there's a lot of opportunity for urban agriculture because we're in good growing areas, but it also means that there's less big farmland areas left, especially as our cities grow and develop the suburbs and whatnot. So what is soil? What do you guys think is in the ground underneath our feet? Minerals? Yeah. Organisms, very, very important. Yep. So the minerals we can kind of divide into different sizes. So we've got big rocks, which aren't actually considered part of our soil, but a lot of times they affect us when we're gardening. Then we've got 3 different sized particles: sand, silt, and clay. So most of the time, you know, when you pick up your soil, you can, some of us have very sandy soils, depending on what part of Anchorage we're in, and other people have a lot more clay soils. But they're all some combination of sand, silt, and clay. And I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. And then we've got the organisms, and then 2 more very important things is water and air.
It's a little competition.
I know.
Between the birds and the kids.
At any time, you guys, if you have any questions or anything, please feel free to ask. We can make this interactive as you want. So water and air are super, super important. And to demonstrate that, I have 2 different soil samples here. These came from Georgianne's garden, 2 different spots. And in each of these is a cup of soil. And I've got a cup of water for each one. And I'm going to show you how much air is in these samples by pouring the water in and letting it bubble up through there. Of course, in the wintertime, it's a little bit difficult to find soil samples. So we kind of had to deal with what we could get, but it's really interesting to take a look at that. And the air in the soil is really important because the roots actually need air, they breathe. And if there's no air in the soil, if it's completely waterlogged, for instance, have you ever walked through a bog and it's smells really bad? That's because there's anaerobic bacteria in there, and it's a lot of times the plants in there will die if they're not used to that, if that's not their conditions that they like to grow in. So it's really important that you have good drainage in your garden. I've seen where some people have actually lined the bottom of their garden beds with plastic to keep grass out or whatever, but that's a really bad idea because what you're doing is you're creating a pond underneath your garden bed. So the air is really, really important. That's why when you put a plant in a pot, you always need to have drainage holes in the bottom so that the extra water can drain out. If you don't have drainage holes, then a lot of times the pot will go anaerobic and your plant will die. So, and then this one you can see has a different composition. It's very sandy, and then it's got just a little bit of silt, and then I don't even see the clay layer. Well, I see a little bit right here of the clay.
Above the sand.
Yeah, above, yeah. And then again, the organic matter on top. So that's this sample. No, other way around. This sample and this sample. So you can kind of see the differences between those 2.
So that other one's mostly sand?
Yeah. They both started out with the same amount of soil, and then we just poured water in, and I was able to pour a lot more water into this one, which means that this one has a lot more air, a lot more porous spaces in it. So if there's one thing I want you to take home today from this workshop is always add more organic matter. You never go wrong. Yeah, well, so by organic matter, I mean anything, compost, that's whether it's finished compost or not finished compost. It could be manure, it could be leaves and straw. In certain beds you might want to add wood chips. But there's kind of proper ways to do that and improper ways to do it. So we'll talk a little bit. And with that, it looks like we're out of time. So thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
It's a good
And if
conversation.
anybody didn't